All right. I believe we are live in the shed. Welcome back, everyone. This is Rose McInerney here. I'm so excited. I'm going to sit up a little taller. We got a lot of good stretching happening today on the show. I hope there's someone out there in the ether world that's going to be with us live today because we've got a special guest named Deborah Clark Vance. And she's a writer and she's got a new book coming out that I think fits beautifully into the framework of the discussion we've been having on WomanScape within our community group, but also in a much larger way. What I'm super happy about is the fact that Deborah and I met in the community group. And I don't think I can stress that enough, that the idea of community for each of us as women and men and sharing in a really real way as friends and getting to know each other and learning, what works and what are you dealing with and challenges and being able to just commune is super important. And that's the purpose of the group. So I want to thank everyone that is watching or that will be watching this rewind. So as always, when I start the show, I like to do a quick little shout out to womanscape.com. That's where all of the ideas and the generation of really women that we feature and men as well, but really predominantly women that are change makers in the world. These are women that exchange ideas, they innovate. It may be inventing something, it may be adding something in the design world as an artist. It can be any number of fronts in any industry. And the reason we draw attention to them is because I think in the past, and I think anyone would certainly not disagree with me, women haven't had the same time in the history books. So this is a chance for us to share women in history that have done incredible things on a very personal level so that you get to know them as people, but also women today, of course, that are changing the world. So that's all about WomanScape, this living library of people changing the world. As you know, we also have a WS magazine. This month is all about engines, and we carry that theme with sub-themes about engines, and engines being engines of change. So last week we talked about a race car driver. This week we're going to look at you as an engine of change. And I think that's super important, and obviously it's going to resonate really personally, I hope. So, getting started tonight. On Sundays, we put out a newsletter at WomanScape. Sign up for it, it's free. There's no obligation to buy anything or do anything, and you can toss it in that email and hit the trash if you like. But we try to offer something in there to provoke you to think a little bit deeper about what's happening in the world and with you. And so this past Sunday, we had a question that we put out to everyone in the community, and that was really, could we look at reimagining our life? What would we identify that maybe we're not particularly happy with, especially during a period like now? Is there something you've always thought about doing and that you never had the time or you never believed you could do it? What if? What if you could? Are there women out there and men out there that can show you through their example maybe how to get started? So that's where our guest Deb is fantastic because she's going to share her story about transforming herself in life a number of times over. So I think you're going to be really entertained about that. So before I introduce Deborah, I did want to quickly address a fun little slide here. I did a Google search just to ask the big Google machine, where would we start? If I could Google how to start a new life, what would I get? What would I get? How would I start a new life? So for anyone that's watched The Social Dilemma, I know there's an algorithm behind all this, but the answers were so funny. So I got things like how to start a new God, how to start a new life in after divorce, how to start a new life in a breakup, how to start a new life. I like this one as a teenager. So as a teenager, you're going to plan, okay, now's my time to start a new life. I love this one too. How to start a new life in Japan. Truly there were all these kinds of super interesting, ways that you could get started. So with that, I think we got a little bit of sound going in too. Um, okay, I'm doing a quick little good. It's just my headphones. All right, so now we're going to roll into a great little intro video. I'm going to give you a lead into Deborah. Deborah's written a book called Sylvie Denied. And Sylvie Denied is, well, I'm not going to say anything about the plot. I'm going to let her share that with you. But it is a book that's very timely with how to start a new life. So before we do that, we've got a fun little YouTube video. I think you're going to love because this guy's a, well, I don't know. I love watching the show. It's for adults. I don't know if it's for kids, but anyway, it's a good one. So my Wizard of Oz here is going to help out and we're going to roll that one. Enjoy.
This is how real writers do it. I'll just bang out 2,000 words and then I'll stop. Even if I'm on fire, I gotta pace myself. Chapter 1. Wait, I can't start without music to inspire me. Why is Bach next to Muddy Waters? That's my problem. I gotta get these CDs organized. There, finished. Now, if I win just 2 more games of Online Boggle, I'll be ready to start writing. Spot, stop, sop, top tops, pot pots, opt ops. Post! Sitting in a coffee shop, I couldn't feel more like a real writer. Oh, better set up my Wi-Fi in case I need to do some research. But if I'm gonna use their free internet, I really should buy something. God, I love being a writer. I've got it! A mermaid falls in love with a boy on land! I'm a genius! Ah! Writing is the hardest thing ever! Coming to the book fair sure was a great idea, because you can't write if you don't know what the competition's up to. A dog wrote a bestseller? Ah! All I've done is procrastinate! Who am I kidding? There will never be a book with my name on it.
Or your name could be on a book in 10 minutes.
Do I have to do any writing?
No.
Amen.
Awesome. Okay, we need to have a little more fun. I warned you last week. It may be corny, but I'm going to give it my best. There's something about that that's so universal, whether you want to be a writer or not. How true is it what Lisa does? I think we do it every day. I know there are days where I wake up and I can think of a million other things to do other than what I have to do, really, or what I should get done. So I love that. And obviously, it's a great segue into anyone out there that's ever been interested in writing on any level, whether it's just your own personal journaling or you've got stories to tell and you'd like to share them. I'm going to send this open invitation out to you that you are always welcome to shoot me an email at rose@womanscape.com. And I'd be happy to get you started in any way I can. But it's with great pleasure that I'm going to introduce Deborah now and bring her into the shed. And Deborah's going to share a little bit about her book. She's got a copy to show you, and I think we've got a book cover that we can share at the very end. We'll have that and post that up so you can see it. You're getting a sneak preview as well, so know that. It's a special place. This is a sneak preview. So without any further ado, let's invite Deborah into the shed. Hi, Deborah. Can you... We've got a round of applause happening there. Did you hear that? Okay, well, I'm not feeling sorry for you if you've got the ocean in the background. That's beautiful. Nice. Yeah, that's where we are. Yes. Uh, ah. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
bring
Can
new.
we I'm going to take one time out. I hear that I've got a technical difficulty. Maybe we've frozen. I'm going to
Oh,
check with Mark, and I hope not. Okay, we are rolling. We are good. So we'll keep talking. Okay. I'm going to introduce you again, Deborah. Sorry about that. We did a big clapping and a round of applause, so I've got to bring you back in. Thanks for coming into the She Shed, Deborah. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Rose.
Uh,
Um, can I repeat my praise of how you put social into social media, and
yes.
and I love how you are pioneering these new ways of making these Zoom interactions and online interactions more personal and less anonymous.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have to be honest with you. That's what's really bothered me about social media. It's a little bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? It's media, but really, how social is it? Like, that's a great question, I think, because it does feel like it's pumped out and it's kind of artificial, doesn't it?
A lot of times.
Yeah.
And yet I have to say, I'm working on marketing, working on the marketing of my book, which writers now are expected to do.
Yes.
Uh, and I'm finding it more fun than I thought because it is because of that social element to it. I
Ah,
didn't expect it to be as engaging
yes. Yeah.
and interesting.
Oh, good. I think that what I've heard in the past from many writers that I've met that are doing the marketing, because you're right, you have to do your own marketing now. Most of them don't like it, which is interesting. I sense already you're very social, and you put the social in social media now too.
Well, I was really not looking forward. I mean, I put it off and put it off. I just didn't want to do the marketing.
Right.
I hate the whole idea of it.
Yeah.
But there's some, there's writing involved, which I love,
Hmm.
and just thinking of writing in a different sort of way,
Right. Right.
which is fun
Right.
too.
Well, thanks. Thanks for coming on and sharing. I think the subject, I think, writing is one of those, it's got millions of hashtags around it. It's something so many of us dream of doing. And I think very few people, kind of like Lisa Simpson in our little cartoon there, actually sit down and write something, and then releasing it into the universe is a whole different thing. So, just want to say congratulations on your book and
Long time.
writing it. I would love for you to tell people a little bit about Sylvie Denied and maybe a little about what the plot's about, what you wrote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So you asked me earlier about the title.
Mhm.
Um, Sylvie she talks back, and if you have seen my blog, there's a talking back section because
Okay.
she's resisting a lot of things,
Mm.
and I can explain that in a second. But she also is denied, as so many women of my generation who came of age. I mean, we're coming of age in the 70s, and even later, and probably even now. I mean, there's so many. And I was teaching college until a few years ago, and I saw some. In fact, I saw some women who were even more constrained than I think I felt when I was in my 20s,
Yeah.
which is depressing.
Yeah. Well, it's hard in your 20s. You feel like you can take on the world, and yet you're right, where there's a fear element that's really big, I think, that
Yeah.
I definitely had.
And when I was that age, and also so I wanted to dramatize this in the story.
Right.
um I felt like, I grew up hearing, well, society says this, society says that, and I thought, well, who is society? I was a little kid, I'm thinking, who are these people, who are
Yeah.
and what will the neighbors think? My parents would say that, my dad. And I thought, well, how do you know what they, do you really know what they're, I didn't
Yeah.
say it, mouth off, but
It's
I
true.
thought about mouthing off. But he, the neighbors and the society is this anonymous thing. And I wanted to know,
Yeah.
what is that? And are they right? And if not, if they're wrong, then what's true?
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
that was my own sort of odyssey. And the character is living that odyssey as well. So
Okay.
it is I see it as an epic hero's journey,
Yes.
for her.
Hmm.
Um, she has to figure out who she is, and as I mentioned earlier, she leaves her culture in order to do that. So
Okay.
Sylvie is thinking, well, I grew up hearing from all these people, this is how things are. Um, the way to find out if what I'm hearing in my culture is true is to see myself in another place, go to another place. And this is how I thought back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
I went to college, and I dropped out after freshman year. Well, I intended to transfer.
Okay.
And there's a college called Friends World College that had a campus on every continent.
Oh, wow.
And students actually picked created their own curriculum,
Oh,
moving from Stockholm to Tokyo to,
wow.
I forget what European city, I think Brussels, I don't know where.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, it was a cool idea, and it wasn't accredited. And
Oh,
I just looked it up, and now it was called Friends World College, and now it's LIU, Long Island University Global.
oh,
It was
wow.
only recently accredited.
Hmm.
So I'm glad I didn't do that because I would have had to wait a long time
Right.
to actually be worth anything. But it was such a cool idea. And then I thought, well, it's not accredited, but I can do that by myself.
Sure.
I'm going to go live that life. I'm going to go move somewhere. I'm going to
Oh,
create my own curriculum, read the books, blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
Of course, I wasn't that well organized, but
Sounds like a good writing story to me.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So
where did you? So, there's a little bit, if you don't mind me asking. It sounds like there's a little bit of an autobiographical. It's not Sylvie's,
yeah,
not you, but you're infused in this journey, aren't you?
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can channel her.
Right.
um, so I went and she went. We both went to Italy,
Okay.
and the reason I chose Italy was I spoke French. I should have gone to France, but um, at first I went. I studied some Italian. We're pretty good with languages, so that helped because
Okay.
I studied Latin.
Okay.
Remember, I don't know if anybody studies Latin anymore, but it
I
helps
did way
you.
back when a wee bit. It's a
Well, it
yeah.
kind of helps, right? It
I
helps you
I wasn't
under.
very good at it. I got to tell you, I
You
hated it.
can't speak Latin to anybody. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But there were too much red tape going to France. Italy, just go. They don't, you just have to check in with the
Yeah.
secret police or whoever.
Yeah.
And then I was going to go to the School for Translators and Interpreters,
Okay.
and Sylvie has the same experience where they lost my documents, they lose her documents,
Okay.
and they said, well, it won't count, but you can come.
Okay.
Um, anyway, so
Yeah.
then
So she goes on this quest, and she's looking to find herself, so to speak. Um,
to find herself and to know, yes, to find herself. And then another part of the story is exploring love. And
hmm,
how do you know that the love you feel is reciprocated? Is that what
yeah.
your lover feels?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, how do
On,
you really know it's true, on any level?
it honestly, it sounds really good. I think all of us, even if we don't write that journey when we go on holiday, I don't know about you, but I often feel like when I go on holiday, it's a little mini story that I'm writing,
Hmm.
or experiencing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's a little, this sounds a wee bit, and I'm not comparing it to an Eat, Pray, Love kind of
Yes.
story.
No,
Yeah.
and I thought of that, at
Yeah.
one point I even wrote a preamble,
Okay.
kind of channeling Eat, Pray, Love. So
Yeah.
I guess, is that nonfiction? It is, right?
I think so. I mean, I read a, I mean, she used to write for, I think it's Melissa Gilbert. She wrote for GQ, didn't she? And then left, I think, on bad terms. And to your point, she kind of went looking for, who is she really? What does she want to write about? And she was looking for love. She had gone through divorce as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the difference is that my character has no money.
Okay.
It
Well,
is,
that's
so
going to resonate with most of us.
yeah, that's part of the denied part.
Yeah. Okay. And so the denial, that's is it all the ways that life has sort of denied her, and she's looking to reclaim it?
That
Whatever.
is part of it, but it begins earlier. She experiences a trauma,
Okay.
and it's something that happens to her in public when she's very young, and she tells her mother about it, and she gets the sense that her mother doesn't believe her.
Uh,
And
Okay.
she decides that her mother just doesn't know anything. And she's
Okay.
like I say, she's pretty young.
Okay.
So and then as time goes on, she sees more things that she thinks the adults in the world just are clueless. And so she kind of feels like she's on her own and has to
Right.
figure this out. So
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
I don't know, that's she's denying in that sense, she's denying what's being told to her
Well,
and
that's
feels like she's
interesting.
got to figure it
Yeah.
out.
So the world's denying her and she's denying back, and they're different
Yeah,
things,
yeah, it's
maybe.
reciprocal.
Yeah. Do you have children, Deborah?
Yeah, I have three and yeah, I raised four.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
bore three. I raised four. But that was, from a previous marriage. We
Okay.
still have a great relationship. I
Yes.
shouldn't qualify it, I suppose, because
No, I know.
yeah, and, it's how it gets sticky and
Yeah. Yeah.
complicated.
I have that question too sometimes. I have three surviving children, but I started raising four as well. And honestly, I know what you're talking about, and I think any parent does. Even now, maybe my children are going through their own denial of parents again in this situation. And I don't know. I feel like I know that you're traveling right now, I think, aren't you?
Yes, we actually we reinvented ourselves. We both
Okay.
I retired from academia. My husband retired from his job at the VA hospital in Washington,
Oh, neat.
and we picked out a city.
Nice.
We felt the vibe. We thought, where's a good place? We had certain requirements. We
Mm-hmm.
loved the beach, but didn't like beach culture.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
we wanted to be a place with a major orchestra, with a major league ball team, with a
Amazing.
good art culture, and we're Midwesterners. We'd been on the East Coast, so
Okay.
we moved to Cincinnati, which now we're there. They tell us that's really the South, but
Ah.
new. But we're really loving it there.
um,
So we live there and just had to get, how it is with
yeah.
COVID and quarantine. You just feel like you got to get
Hmm.
out of here.
Yeah.
And as I said, I said before we went on, we had to come and get haircuts because our hair cutter, she had a baby and she can't cut her hair. And you know how it
Hmm.
is. We find somebody who can cut your hair. We know somebody in
Right.
Baltimore who did a great job. So we came
Yeah.
here,
Isn't that the
not just to go to the beach, but also get our hair cut.
Yeah, no, all the things that we took for granted before, we certainly are appreciating now, whether it's a haircut or having different scenery and being able to escape in some way that's um, going to make us feel good and maybe inspire us to something else in life.
And I
Um,
want to point out there is a beach behind me, and that little round dot right there is the moon. These are the lights,
ah,
reflection of the lights, but that's the moon. You're going to see it going up.
okay, nice, nice.
Yeah.
We've got the moon also rises coming as I've got a book feature coming in our next magazine issue. So
Oh.
um, Deborah and I have had some great conversation around writing, and I think we share a lot of the same ideas about really how writing can be so transformative. Um, with your own personal life, it sounds like you've used writing as a way to shape and be creative, but also something that's helped you to continue to transform. Is
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point.
yeah,
It was, I mentioned it to my cousin who's a poet and also wrote a young adult novel. And she said it was
okay,
for her, it was psychotherapy.
yeah,
And so we talked about that. It's, you're thinking into your own life because you are channeling this character. So
yeah,
how would she speak? How would she react? How would
right,
you react?
right.
Um, you're not her, but of course, your what
Yeah,
your emotions are. So you
yeah.
got to express an
Did,
emotion.
now we're not going to do any spoiler alerts because the book's not out yet, is it? It's when's it coming
So
out?
it's coming out 2/21/21,
Okay,
and
so
it is in this shape right now. It's got pages and a cover,
okay,
but they're not bound, and we are just did a final proofread.
oh nice.
I think I've done like 4 or 5 proofreads. And I said to her today, I said to the publisher today, hey, it's perfect for now. This is, and I know I'm always going to look at it and see something I wish
Yeah,
I had done differently.
yeah, most definitely. Are there one last thought about this? Was there anything in the character of Sylvie as you wrote her that surprised you and showed you something about you didn't know? Okay. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Other sub story. I mean, there are themes in there that I'm exploring. The main
Okay.
story is her love life, her marriage,
Okay.
and having a daughter. But there's also her family story. Her mother.
Mm.
There's mother daughter, and then Sylvie has a daughter. So there's a lot of mother daughter. Um,
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's always, I've got three daughters. That's always a tricky one. No, it sounds really great, Deborah. I'm looking forward to the read. I'd love to be able to share as well. You mentioned your blog. If you've got a web address you could share with people on the Facebook page there, that would be really great. So we can direct them there and I can reinforce that. That would be good.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you can think of in terms of our subject matter as a way to sort of roll out that might be good for people that are really thinking about transforming their lives in some way? I've got a little cheat sheet of about 5 things, but you know, if someone asked you for advice, I know I'm putting you on the spot here. You know, is there any one thing for you that really helped carry you through the iterations you've done?
Well, I think it's the basic theme for me is the shared consciousness.
Yeah.
We, like I say, we grow up in a world, and actually this became my doctoral subject matter. So I have certain vocabulary I can use around it, but it's always been an interest of mine
Mm-hmm.
that we share this. We're in a universe of shared meaning, um, but we all need to take a look at that. And I think COVID is forcing us to do such things like, that similarly do
It
that.
is. Yeah.
People are looking at who are we as a country, who are we as a world, who are we as humanity,
Mm-hmm.
how should we actually be,
Yeah.
what is, and I say, I
Yeah.
guess any crisis can make you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great point. I think it's timeless. I don't know. I have a little note here. I'm hoping my assistant can sound the horn and do a little clap for having you in. You were amazing.
Thank
We
you.
got it going. Uh,
No,
All right. We may have lost the horn. We'll find it at some point. It'll rear its head. But I just want to thank you, Deborah, for coming on. I'm going to do a little wrap, and we can not an actual wrap, but I'll do a little wrap up on this. But I think we will again loop back to promote Deborah's book, and she's in our WomanScape community. So ask questions, introduce yourselves. Don't be shy about that. We really don't have any rules in here. And I don't know what you think about this, Deborah. There are no real rules. I did hear from one person that sort of called me out on the politics right now
I
about,
read that. That was
yeah.
interesting.
And you know, it was a really tricky one. I'm such a believer in any discussion is good discussion. But I think because things are so heavy and it's so easy for us as human beings to get really sidelined but by what we believe to be true,
Hmm.
that we do a lot more talking than listening,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. And I
know?
think your response was perfect because you then qualified it and you said you were talking about partisan politics. And I
Yeah,
absolutely agree with that. I mean,
yeah,
I agreed with what she said is that there's a lot, most of life is political on some level.
yeah,
But
yeah,
when it gets into this party politics, it's,
yeah,
we're choosing a team, we're choosing a side, we're choosing a set of values and ideas
yeah,
without actually
yeah,
examining them.
right.
And
Well,
that's toxic.
Well, thanks. I think it is a really topical thing. I'd love to write more about it because, I mean, you know, for anyone that saw the debates or we're looking at what's happening in the world, it's really difficult. It's almost impossible not to get mired in the politics. And yet, this is the thing with the change makers that we feature at WomanScape. There are always people that step out of the box in some way, and they, to your point, Sylvie, in your story, we're confined by things, and we're raised with certain ideas about what we're taught to believe, what the world tells us we should believe, and then us trying to discover it somewhere in there. And I don't know. I'm hoping that we can continue to have this kind of conversation and it's real and we'll be kind to each other and we may step away and find we didn't learn anything, but gosh, if we can form some friendships over this and be a resource for each other in that shared meaning you're talking about, I think that's a pretty darn cool thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well
Yeah.
put. Thank you, Rose. That's
Yeah,
great.
thank you. So, we've got to wrap with something. I pulled out the big Google machine and I started looking around. There's a list, Time.inc or Time Inc.'s got a list of different books that talk to you about, their lists for everything. The highly successful habits of, or the habits of highly successful people. How do you do this? There's, dummy books for everything. And so I sort of hit on a number of different ones and put them together into a list of 5 key ways to start something new. And I love the first one. There's no order to this, but the first is the hardest. And this is what everyone said: getting started. It's kind of like getting in motion when you go from zero to something. That's the hardest part. Anyone listening to the Sipping on Stories podcast that we're putting out will see that most of the change makers there that share their stories are saying it's super, super hard to just get started. So that's what I'm going to say. Find one tiny little way. Maybe it's picking up the pen, maybe it's writing a paragraph, and rewarding yourself in some way, but getting started. I think the second one, losing the idea that it's all or nothing. You don't have to write a masterpiece. You don't even have to publish if you're wanting to write. If it's changing jobs, I've heard this said by super successful people that before they jump into something full steam, they often start doing it part time, and then it evolves into something and it helps them. And sometimes you may set your sight on something far ahead, and halfway or part way, you find something else that's better. So I love that. It doesn't have to be, all or nothing. Number 3 is key, key, key. If you do not surround yourself with positive people or people that believe in you and encourage you, and if there aren't any in your tribe, find some. We've got social media. Deborah's out here. She's speaking to good stuff. I'm speaking to good stuff. The people and teams at WomanScape, but honestly, in the larger world, there's really good people. There are more good people than not. So find somebody to get in your corner. That positivity, I think, is speaks to that, surrounding yourself. And the last part is kind of a funky one, maybe to throw in there. But I like it. It's not all about you. And so you could be, well, what do you mean it's not all about you? That's kind of calling out how, and someone said this to me, I did a little bit of an informal poll, and someone said, when I really get into a funk, I try to remember to reach out and do something for someone. And what inevitably happens is there's a crossover somewhere where that action makes you feel better. So I'm not saying go out and just, start being a martyr or a saint and doing everything for everyone, but reach out and see if there is something, some small difference. It might be telling someone something positive. And those, on a very physical level, our doctor of happiness, Dr. Jay Kumar, would agree with me that something happens in the brain, just like really great stories, where you come away feeling inspired. Something is physiologically changed inside of you. So I'm going to challenge you to do that, and to just always remember the big picture. And I could get super preachy. I have former teacher days like you do, Deborah. I don't want to go there. But I do think that there are all kinds of well springs for us to go to. I do want to leave you with 2 things that we are going to continue on this reinvention for the month of October. So that's kind of a subheading under engines. How do you drive your engine and maybe fine tune it. So if you think of a car, I'm going to make a little adjustment on the carburetor or, whatever those parts are. I'm going to try to sound like I know what I'm talking about, and I don't. All I know is I love twin cam exhaust, dual exhaust in the back of a car. So think about that. How do you build another part or tweak the engine that you have? And then I'm going to suggest, and I don't always suggest what movies to watch. I don't know, Deborah, if you've seen this one, The Social Dilemma. It's a documentary. Okay. Every parent out there has to see this. All right. I'm not going to go preachy, but you got to watch it. It's entertaining. It's really entertaining. And it speaks to, I think, our number 3 episode, Tamaya Naji speaks to this about online predators, but it speaks more importantly to all the algorithms out there, and what social media can do to our brains, the good, the bad, and the really ugly. So that's going to be the homework. All right. I'm leaving you with homework. Next week, when we come back into the shed, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but we're going to speak more importantly about reinvention and carry on. Most gratefully to Deborah for kicking us off in a really wonderful way as we start October tomorrow. Yeah. All right. Woo. Well, thank you again, Deborah. It was really fun. I really loved talking to somebody in here instead of myself. And I'm going to encourage all of you to share the great work that we're doing here in the WomanScape community. Invite some friends in here. Let's get more conversations going. And with that, that's a wrap for tonight. Take care, everyone. Be safe. Be great. Bye for now. Bye, Deborah. Thanks. Okay. Have a good